Hey, we're finally live. We had some issues. We just like the risky life of doing things live, but we're here now. This is our very first webinar. It's called Impact Your Business Growth Integrating Analytics and UX. This is by Nearsoft's UX team. My name is Jorge Simons. I'll be your host today. I'm the guy with no shirt in the chat called Jorge Pistola. I'll be attending to any questions or comments you might have. But today, the stars are Miguel Medina and Denise Gutierrez. Miguel is a UI UX designer, and Denise is a UX design researcher. And we're part of a larger team of people, ranging from UI designers to business developers like Sandra, or content creators like me. So you now know that Nearsoft has a great and big UX team. For what we're going to do today, you can tweet us using the hashtag NearsoftsUXWebinar, and I'll be happy to talk about your comments or answer your questions. So let's get started. Let's get right into it. The agenda for today is we're going to be talking about from analytic to business actions, how analytics can give us hints into what decisions we should take, integrating data and UX, starting to listen to our users, how to understand user behavior, which is going to be a common ground here on our webinar. Then some case study examples we have encountered in the past, and we are going to analyze them down for you. And finally, our world famous takeaways. We do this since the UX Clinic era. We give you 5 or 6 points, sometimes less, so we can sum up the webinar and you know everything you need to know in a short amount of time. And finally, we have our ear. We're going to lend you our ear for questions and answers, so please save all your questions for the end. I'm going to be drafting it up here. So please be free to ask whatever it is in your heart. I like to be corny like that. So to start, let's go from analytics to business actions with Denise Gutierrez. Hi.
Thank you, Jorge, and welcome everyone. I think many of you in the audience own an app, website, or any software product, and you are familiar with Google Analytics. You know how to track your data. And the question is not if you have installed Google Analytics or not. The real question here is, are you actually using the data to make better business decisions? So I'm not sure about the answer, but what I can tell you is that most of our clients that doesn't have a proper data scientist or UX department, what they do is to take a dive in Google Analytics and the wonders of metrics, and they visualize a red flag. And then start a guesswork when trying to know what is the best action for solution. So that's a tricky part because they based their solutions in their own experiences and not in user feedback. So some of the most common decision-making tools project managers or marketers like very much is A/B testing, which is a good practice. But the problem with A/B testing is that they spend a lot of time designing and developing 2 different user interface with different interactions based only, again, on their guessing. And what would be attractive for users based on their own experiences. And if that doesn't work, they look for something else, and that's a never-ending process. So why we want to integrate data and UX? That's a simple question. And the answer is because analytics data tell us the what, where, and when, but there's still something missing, the why. So most of our clients have these questions and need answers on these questions. Why are my people not engaging with my product? Or why are they leaving after a specific page? Why aren't they making any purchases? So we noticed that we need to know the true insights to actually make better business decisions to avoid the guesswork. And that's where UX methodology can help us. So how can we get insights from data? One of the best UX practices to answer this question is just to talk to your users directly before actually building any solution. And this is not a difficult or expensive task to do. We need only 5 current or potential users to have a trustful estimation of how users perceive your product. So in order to make this happen, we need to do the following 4 steps, and this is like our internal process. And the first step is you need to set your business goal. We all want that our products to grow, but here we need to be more specific. For example, if you sell cookies and you have a website, the business goal of your site can be get users to buy cookies online, or the business goal of your website can be just to share content to get traffic. And that will only depends on your product. The second thing is to identify symptoms in the data. And this is something you already are doing, so it's easy. We're going to identify the red flags that analytics are telling us. The third one is understand users' behavior. And this is the most important point. And how are we going to do that? Well, by integrating UX methods, we're going to be able to discover insights and have a real understanding of why users are behaving in a certain way. There are a lot of methods you can use depending on what you want to test, but we're going to explain that a little bit further in the presentation. The last one is define your business action items. Of course, based on your user feedback, will be easier to have specific action items to solve that your numbers increase or decrease depending on what you want to do. So by following these steps, the decision-making process will be easier, and we are able to build a user-validated solution, which is the objective of this webinar. And to make more sense of how we follow this process in our daily basis, Miguel is going to share a case study of one of our projects.
Yes, yeah, we have one example or case study to show with you guys, and it's called Planning with Cards. And well, what is Planning with Cards? Planning with Cards is a application that works for remote teams that needs to estimate tasks, and it combines the techniques of planning poker integrated on Google Hangouts. So that's what Planning with Card is. And well, we have our business goal for our application, which is to promote the benefits of using it, and of course to convert new users. So we saw in analytics that we had like 77% of bounce rate. What is bounce rate? Well, it's when users go to your site but leaves immediately, which is not very good. And also we could find that only 20% of users added the plugin, and well, very few users engage with our product, and it's also a bad sign. So we need to know why that's happening. So we need to, well, first recruit users and ask them, right? So to help our research and to know who is our current users, we went to analytics once again to know who our target is. So we saw that 75% of new sessions were from the US, and most of the users were American developers from San Francisco, around 25 or 34 years old, more or less. So now that we have the symptoms, which are low conversion and high bounce rate, what can we do on this scenario? We need to make an informed decision, but how do we know why users are not adding the plugin or installing Planning with Cards? So we chose usability testings interviews for this case study because we could understand users as they work through a task, and that's what we needed to know. And we're going to present what we did with this method and also what we recommend you to follow if you want to do usability testing. So the first thing is we need to make one-on-one sessions with users. So we recruited like 5 to 7 because we needed to know who is using or who is going to use our app. And after that, we let them interact with the application, with the product. So we want them to use the product as they usually do, and we want them to feel comfortable using it. And after that, we can then ask them to complete a specific task to see how they use it. And regarding of what we want to discover, we always recommend asking why they do it like that, what they expect it to be that way. And while we are having the test, it's very important to take notes so we could interpret the feedback and, of course, understand the user behavior. So some of the things that we found in our test after interpreting the feedback were that the language used in the process was not clear enough, as well as how users expected the process to be. Well, users thought they had to download a file and follow the common installation process, but instead it was just a redirect to Google Hangouts to add the plugin, and users were very confused by this. The label that the call to action had was install planning with cards, and they didn't want to lose any time downloading a file and have a 5 to 10 step wizard to do so. They wanted to add the plugin fast. So we now know the why. And most of the people without research can come with other common ways to solve the call to action problem, probably by making the button bigger, changing its color, or change the location of it. And well, in this example, we found out that we just needed to change the language of that label. And another key insight that we found is that users did not know the benefits of planning with cards. Even though planning poker is well known among developers, some didn't know how it worked. And well, we had that information in the page, but it was difficult to digest and it was overwhelming to them. So we created a brief video to visualize the benefits of using the app. So our business actions were change the language to add plugin instead of the install button, and create a brief video to visualize benefits of using the app. And once the action items were applied by our dev team, we noted some of little improvements in Google Analytics. The bounce rate decreased from 77 to 69%, and the engagement increased in the app from 20 to 32%. We spent a couple of days gathering user feedback and defining business actions that were based on validated user feedback rather than taking a wild guess. And this is a good practice to keep in mind. And we also recommend to keep iterating if you want to improve or build new software product. And well, as I explained in this example, how we understood our user behavior, we're going to present a little table here that it's like you could take it to consideration if you want to solve some of the symptoms that perhaps you can encounter on analytics. But as it's every product is different, so it's not something that is this table is green on table, or you should take this table as a starting point, and it will help you decide whether what UX method to choose when you have specific problems on Google Analytics. And the first one is low visits. After promoting your site and getting into the web, and you get very low visit, we recommend doing a remote moderator research, which are interviews that relied on screen sharing, and where we asked participants about their motivations of the product. And the benefits of it is that provides quality feedback and helps us understand their thoughts and their expectations. Another one is high bounce rate. Let's say people arrive to your website, but they're leaving before clicking through your call to actions. Well, we recommend conducting usability testing as we did with planning with cards. And well, it's a UX method in which participants will try to complete tasks to identify usability problems in a product. And the benefits of it is that we understand the behavior of the user attempting to work through specific tasks, and we measure the efficiency of the systems in helping users accomplishing their tasks.
And another method that we found very common, another symptom, is exit rate. When you notice that users are leaving in a specific page, the first question you have is why they're leaving, if my content is so awesome. So what we recommend is this method called Experience View Map. This is one of my favorites because this will help you understand users' negative and positive touch points in each step of the journey. You need to ask users how they feel in each step of the page you're testing, and this will help you to visualize emotional stats of your products. And the benefits of this method is that it allows us to frame the customer's motivations and need, as I said, in each step of the journey. The last symptom that we found is low page views. If you detect low page views in your site, means that your content is not attractive enough for your users. So what we recommend is using cart sorting or usability testing, where your users help you identify what content hierarchy makes more sense to them and what is not relevant to them. And the benefits of that is that it helps you define a better hierarchy of your content and build the structure of your website, and also to discover new features. And before we finish, we want to share with you our final takeaways. As a summary of the process that we've been talking to you, this will help you to build the best product possible. And the first step is identify the symptoms on Google Analytics. That this is something you are already familiar with that, but of course, don't forget that it has to be based on your business goals. The second one is the most important one, and it's understand your users' behavior. How with UX methodologies as interviews, usability testing, etc. The third, of course, apply the user feedback to your product, but now you have a better understanding of why users are behaving in certain way, so it's going to be easier to have better solutions applied in your product. And the last one is iterate design. Design is always an iterative process because your product may change through time, your customers can increase through time, and you have to be in a constant evolving evolution of your product. So US best practices can accelerate your business making, decision-making process, where your own users can guide you through what they are interested and what they are not by analyzing why they are behaving in certain way. So the whole point of this webinar is that we want to challenge you not just track your analytics, but to constantly learn from your users' behavior. And that will lead you to reach your business goals and engage with your customers even more every time.
So it seems it's all about listening to users, comparing data all the time, trying to figure out what the red flags, or as you like to call them, symptoms are, so that you can figure out a UX method that can help you know exactly what is going on and then what changes you can make in let's call it, I don't know if this is a UX term, but user-based decisions, like data-driven decisions, instead of just guessing. Maybe this data is telling me this is wrong because I don't know, the site is down or the button is larger. Here you can actually make decisions based on pure evidence, right?
Correct.
Golden star for me
Yeah.
then. Now it's time. Before we head out the door, we have some questions. I remind you, you can use the hashtag Nearsoft UX webinar to give us more questions. As of now, we have around 10 questions, so we're gonna give us some time to answer them. The first question was way in the beginning of the webinar. You said, Denise, that you needed at least 5 participants, which wouldn't be such a big study or such a big problem to get 5 persons. So why 5 participants?
It's based on a study. Like I can send you a link where it has more info about, but it's very common that when you conduct usability or UX, any UX research, the recommendation is 5 users to get for about 80% of the trustful estimation of how users perceive your product. So it's not going to be a very hard time task. It's going to be easy. You can recruit 5 users in 2 days or so. So that's a good
Starting
best
point?
practice.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So it's all about being the most objective you can, right?
Yes.
So I guess 5 isn't that hard,
Mhm.
as long as you know what you're doing, like you guys do. Okay. The second question comes from the same person. It is, do you incorporate user testing only when you detect a problem, or is it something you should keep doing?
It depends. Depends on the product. It depends on of what you want to test. But usually we combine methods also. Not we don't use user testing, but another ton of methodologies in UX depending on your problem. But user testing is more to see how users interact with your product and see if there's any problem that you may solve with UX. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
it does. Actually, Dane, shout out to Dane who actually posted the article you were mentioning about the 5 users. So
Okay.
that's an it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next question is, how do you implement user interviews or user testing? That seems like a broad question, but still.
Do you want to?
But
I guess what they mean is, how do you start setting it up, I guess?
Implement user interviews or testing. Well, you have, as we said, we have a number like 4 process to have interviews with our users. First, we have to recruit them. Then we need to specific task, make that a specific task, and we always have to make a task thinking of a goal in mind. Like if you want to know how your users' mental model are, you need to ask what's your first impression of the product or so. And once you have that questionnaire, you set any date with your users and start chatting. That's it.
Okay, just in case the question went the other way, when would you use usability testing again? Because we can understand it both ways, right? Like when to implement it and how to implement it. So I just want to cover the most ground I can. So again, when can we implement usability testing? When is it recommended?
well, it's recommended when you want to know how users are interacting with several features on your site. For instance, if they are clicking your call to action, or if they are clicking your video, and let's say when you want to understand why they are not doing something you expect them to do.
Okay. And we have some other questions. Here it goes. This goes a bit hand in hand. It says, what about focus groups? Is all of your user testing feedback based on one-on-one interaction?
We usually don't conduct focus groups, but we like better to actually one-on-one user sessions where we can understand and ask a specific users why they're doing or why they're behaving in certain way. So yeah, we like better one-on-one sessions, but also it can be remote moderated sessions. So it depends on, again, on the project and if our users are far away from us or we can reach them.
Okay. I'm going to skip over 2 questions just because it seems this one is a part of like the same continuity of ideas. Is how do you select your users? A very interesting question, actually, because it has a lot of answers, I think.
Yeah, actually, Miguel explained a little bit about that in
The question is very basic: is how do you select your users?
Well, we when we have a product, we usually know well, we better know what are our target, and based on that we select it. I mean, if we are having an application that it's showing the benefits of I don't know, nutrition. So we may have an idea that it may be for users around, I don't know. Well, I don't think I'm answering the question correctly.
No, I think what you're saying is you need to know exactly what your target is, or target. I always get that word wrong, target or target. I'm sorry, but you need to know who your end user is, so then you can take a sample of that users and then bring them in for testing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, as example shown in the Planning with Cards project, we saw that information in Google Analytics. So what are the majority of people that are using our product, and based on that we select the users. So
Okay.
that's it.
That's basically it.
Yeah.
I have another question regarding usability testing. This will be our last. Before we jump into other questions, it's do you use user testing before a feature goes live or while it's already live?
We recommend to having the usability testing before. So even in the wireframe phase, so if it had like several features to change, it won't consume a lot of time to the developers to invert on changing them and decrease the amount of time that they want to get it live. So it's usually before.
Before, so I guess as soon as you can do usability testing, then you can avoid the rework that comes with like fixing things if you already have the feature built in, right? We could actually ask Misael about that. Shout out to Misael, who's in Guadalajara right now. He loves prototyping and doing that even before something is planned. Anyway, we have another question here. Here's an interesting one. Can we derive insights from analytics to help us understand if we are solving the right problem in the first place? Let me repeat that again. Can we derive insights from analytics? It means getting insights from analytics to help us understand if we're really solving the right problem in the first place?
Well, it has to be with your business goal. I mean, you can't know if it's a real problem if you don't have a specific business goal. for example, if you want the users to click in a specific button, then if they are not clicking it, then you have a problem. So that's a real problem you want to solve with UX methodology. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And what about like, let's suppose I have a red flag, and then I'm like, okay, my visits are low. Then I select the UX method, and I conduct the research. I gather the insights. Can analytics tell me if I did it right or wrong after the whole thing is over?
Yeah, of course, you can measure again the impact with your users in analytics, as we saw in the example of planning with cards. So after 2 or 4 weeks of once we applied the feedback into our product, then we realized that the numbers increased or decreased depending on what we want to test.
Okay.
So yeah, you can.
So it seems like a simple cycle,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Okay. Someone is telling us they use Hotjar to record user sessions. Do you guys use any special tool to record the sessions? Is there any secrets we can know about?
QuickTime.
QuickTime, really?
Yeah.
So you guys keep
we-
it simple, huh?
Yeah, we want to make it simple as we can. Yeah.
Okay. Can you deduce from the user's behaviors when it's not a moderated session, sorry?
When it's not.
A moderated session, that's what the question says?
Yeah, that's another method called not moderated research, which and that's more an open questions for the users, so they can, without telling a specific task for the users just give us the information they value the most. So in that specific case of that UX methodology, it helps us identify what's valuable for users and what's not.
By the way, Misael, I'm sorry, Marisol, I've got you. We're going to put the little table again. Don't worry. We have 2 questions before we go to that. Is that Marisol, one of the users, has been saying that we should go back to the table and talk a bit more about how to select UX method. We're going to do that just in a second. But before that, what software now that we're talking about software on the other question, what software do you use for usability testing and prototyping? If you use any software.
We don't use like a specific software. For usability testing, we do it like from scratch. We
create the script
Yeah.
and recruit the users and have the sessions. I mean, that's
yeah,
it.
and for prototyping, I would say InVision is the most common thing that we use for prototyping. But we also like to prototype in paper, like from scratch with one pencil, and that's it.
We also use UX Pin. So
Yeah, UX Pin also, and Sketch.
Okay. We have about 3 or 4 questions that would be too long to answer right now, but I'm still going to give a shot to a last one. There's one about custom reports in Google Analytics, but I would like Fausto and you guys to answer that through email so we can have a better understanding, and the person who asked this can get examples and stuff like that. But the last question is as follows. If users are spending more time interacting using a platform's feature different than the business goal, so let's say feature 1 is our business goal, but people are using feature 3, for example. Do you notify that to the client? Should they empower that feature even if that means it goes a bit apart from the platform goal? That's actually an interesting question.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. That would depend on what your business goals want to go. But I would say if users are interested in one specific feature that was not in your mind, you have to go through promoting more that feature, because people are telling you what's interesting for them, and the best thing we can do is to take that in mind.
Okay, there's quite a little chat about focus groups being old school and focus groups don't work because people get influenced by others' opinions. That's interesting. I'm going to show it to you guys later on. Arturo is actually a designer who can do pretty much everything and is now controlling the presentation and stuff like that. Can we go back to the table on how to select methods, UX methods based on the symptoms, so we can just give it sneak peek into how we are selecting these methods and why. What I think Marisol wants to know is how do you guys understand this in a bit of a more profound level? Like, we know it is clear why you chose that method, but can you walk us through what you were thinking, what is going on, what is it? If we see a red flag, how do we select the method? Whatever you can tell us about that.
Well, if you have low visits, you need to talk to your users to know what they will want to see, or what are their motivations in order to them to visit the site. So that will be, I mean, the flag there with low visits and the method that we use, because it's practically interviews. And with the high bounce rate, well, I think it's something that we've been talking a lot in this webinar. It's usability testings, because we want to know how they interact with some features on the site. And, well, I mean, I think that summarizes the low visits and the high bounce rate, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and if you notice that users are living in a specific page, and you have an exit rate like a red flag on a specific page, then what we thought would be beneficial for us is to know how users, not only how users are interacting and behaving in each step of the process, but also why they are living in that. What is it? Is it the content, or is it something that they don't like? That's what we want to know. And experience view map is a very good practice to actually know how users feel and how users are motivated in each page you want to test. And low page views, that's again with, you can, what we recommend is to use usability testing again, or card sorting, and that will help you to build the structure of your site. And why that's matter? Because if you have low page views, that will tell you the features that are valuable for users, and what features are not valuable for users. So hopefully that will help you solve your problems or your symptoms or your red flags in analytics. But again, this is just a starting point of what method can you choose.
So there's no perfect method for each thing. What I'm trying to summarize here, what I'm getting at is, depending on what is failing, then you need to know something. Like,
Exactly.
if people are falling into a hole, for example, just a dumb little example, then you need to choose a method that'll tell you why people are falling into the hole, or maybe why tell them to a method that would allow you to understand what the feelings are of the people going into the accident, stuff like that. That's a really bad example, but I tried. I tried my best. I failed. Okay. Here's one other question, which is very interesting, which is I think something that every designer, no matter if he does UX or UI or she does any type of design, will eventually they're eventually gonna face it, which is, just gonna read it, but it's a really interesting question. It says, every person interested in UX knows that it's very hard to explain the UX concept to owners and founders. How do you guys work with that? How to convince these people of the importance of UX?
That's a very interesting question. I would like to say that our process, it's always have communication with our stakeholders, and that's one thing that I found very useful, because then when they are realizing what the problems are and what are people saying about their product, it's like it's like
They see the product differently.
yeah, it's like a mind blow for them.
They thought they were doing correctly, but
Mhm.
when they talk with users, well, that's another story.
Yeah, because they they see their own users talking about their product and what they are feeling and
The struggles.
what they are doing makes them realize that it's important to have them in consideration or for building the best product possible.
So it seems like you need to talk their language, right? Like instead of saying research and users and design, maybe talk about the product and how it'll be better off with UX than before, right? And I always used to say in the UX clinic era that UX is about making money, so maybe that's actually a good idea to tell them that UX is about making money too,
Yeah.
not only about
Of course.
like we have like the sappy side, which is like making users happy, and then we have the business side, which is making users give us their money and be happy at the same time. So it's a win-win. We have another question here. It says, do you use any benchmark to compare the performance once you use a UX method? If so, from where? That means that let's say you selected car sorting as a method, right? And then you get the results. Is there any way to compare those results to something already published or something, a benchmark, something that was already there? Any UX method?
We always do a benchmark before actually start user research to know what's the numbers are, and of course with other methods like analytics, so we can know the numbers, and then when the user research is done, we can measure the difference. So is that
Yeah, they were talking about like industry standards. Like, is there something we should set our goal to and something like that?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay. I think I'm having trouble with the question too, but I try. Okay. Okay. Any last questions before we let these guys go? You should look at their faces, like they're eager to answer any more questions. We have time. Let me check Twitter before we go. Let's see if we have something over here. Okay. Oh, I think we got it right. She said thank you, or he said thank you. Okay, just to remind you, if there are any more questions in overtime, we will be answering them through email or maybe even Twitter. We're going to be hooking up with you guys. But remember, if you want to know more about all these things we talked about, you can visit ux.nearsoft.com or even email us at ux-team@nearsoft.com. Or if you like it the old-fashioned way and talk to a human, you can call Sandra, who's our excellent business developer, to the phone there, which is 408-890-2115. I'm really bad at reading numbers, but here it goes again, 408-890-2115. She'll pick right up, and we can talk more about it. Thank you very much for being part of our first ever webinar. This is a new format we're using. So, Denise, Miguel, thank you so much for your time. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.